spend 3 hours on it on Saturday.
Okay. We're live.
That's gotta be brutal.
What? Oh, yeah. All right, good evening, everybody. We're going to call the meeting to order. It is November 24th, 5:30, and this is the budget hearing portion. Do we need a roll call vote for this, or no? We're good? So now we'll go through the different budgets here, and then at the end of each of those 3 reviews of what the budget is, then I'm going to give a quick presentation because there's been a lot of information we've been gathering over the last 2 or 3 weeks, and we're going to present that through a presentation. So,
She usually does the sanitary district.
right, that's where I'm thinking. She's going to get started.
All right, Sanitary District 3's budget. Right now, total revenues are expected to be at $19,693.83. Expenditures, $19,693.83. We will be utilizing a portion of designated funds to balance that budget. Do I have anybody here from Sanitary District 3? Because only those members can vote on this and the board. Does anyone that is not a member have any questions? Okay.
I'll make a motion we approve.
Oh, no, don't have to.
They're just
That
presenting
will be
it.
in the next meeting.
So then, landfill, is that, do you go through that clerk Buchanan, or how does this work?
I can. Proposed revenues were $51,386.54. Total expenditures with the transfer of interest to the town and testing fees of the same amount of $51,386.54. And a decrease in the fund balance to use part of the landfill funds to balance the general fund budget.
All right, and then the last budget. Do you typically review that as well? Or do you want to go into my presentation? How do you want to work that?
You can go into your presentation. If
All right.
anybody has any questions.
So then, what I would like to do is, I said when I entered into this office, I was going to try and get into the details, and I'm going to try and present what I find out. We were going through budget workshops. They didn't start until about the end of September, and then we were frantically going through a bunch of them in October. We discovered about a $500,000 miss that we had come up with, that like a cliff, we went off a cliff, $500,000 cliff or so. And that was about 3rd week of October, I want to say. We discovered in a workshop over here. We quickly, I think the clerk offered up a fire protection fee as an idea maybe. It ended up that we've gotten information back from the Department of Revenue. We needed to get a budget together to put in the paper so that we could announce it or notice it for 15 days before we could have a budget hearing. We need to have all this done by...
I just have one point. It wasn't my idea. The fire fee was not my idea.
Well, okay, you just brought it to the board that night.
The chief did. The chief did.
Oh, okay. Anyway, I'm sorry. What the point is, where were we at?
The deadline is December 15th.
The deadline is December 15th to have our information to the state to keep our government operational. We need to have a budget in place. So therefore, we were under the gun from about 3rd week of October to get something done in a week. It was thrown out, let's look at a fire fee. We had the attorney look at it. We did ordinances so that we were able to do that. We found out today, I was doing some additional research over the last 3 weeks, trying to find out how all this works and what we should be doing. And I came in this morning, we talked to Clerk Buchanan, she made some calls, I asked specific questions. If we lower the levy at this time to be able to put a fee in place, does it lower it forever? The answer back was yes. The second thing that came back very interesting was we really can't levy for capital, or not levy, we can't use a fee for capital, is what I think the message said. So there's just a lot of variables that were moving all through that time period, and there was a lot of people working very hard to get to this point. So what I want to do is go through where we are. I'm going to show where we thought we were with the budget that was announced with the fee, and then I'm going to show what the budget looks like without that fee, which is going to be a primary suggestion from my point of view. But let's go to the next slide. So the first things I want to do, these are discussion topics for tonight. We have no internal capability for analyzing trending financial data. We don't have it internal to the town. There's, at least I'm unaware of anything, I've never seen anything generated like this, and in fact, we weren't able to even export internally to an Excel so we could do the analysis. I found that out in like July when I was trying to do this. So what you're going to see tonight was all hand input by me, and I asked my wife to help. So we did put a lot of information into Excel over the 4 years so that we could show some trend data, and I'm going to show that tonight. And you should have hard copies, and for those looking online, there is under news and notices, this presentation is there. So, and this presentation was still coming together at 3:30 today. So I just want you to understand this is pretty late-breaking news to try and pull this together. We actually, for 26 budget, we're buying a financial license for our business systems, civic systems, for Deputy Clerk Loaf, so that we can get her into the treasurer work and start understanding some of the business system, because right now, Clerk Buchanan is really the only one that's able to be in there. We also are getting, we authorize the purchase of OneView. It is an add-on that will happen in early 26, and what it does is it allows for exporting of information from our business system into Excel or other forms that allow us to do manipulation. There are a lot of groups that actually, even in the village, they create their own Excel reports that are generated each month, and the information is filled from the business system semi like a click of a button. It'll automatically populate those reports each month, which will really save a lot of time for generating stuff. It's going to take some time to probably figure all that out and get it in place, but we move forward with those activities so we can be a little more in control of our destiny, because we haven't, it's somewhat been the blind leading the blind in some respects here, because the budgets that have been generated, we use this. This is how we've generated a budget in the past. That's the sheet. We get this big long sheet, which is effectively a summary of what you get in the packet. But it allows for some budget planning on that side. And so what we do, Clerk Buchanan puts in the numbers, she reads through all these numbers at the workshop, and then we discuss. There's no analysis, nothing that we see more than this. And what I'm going to do is offer to you my summary. You're going to be able to find from the sheets that you get in the packet. You should be able to see the information I'm provided. But again, this is not an analysis, and this is very hard to spot trends from year to year or month to month. And that's something we need to start putting in place. So the next thing, I'm going to put about 3 or 4 slides up. They're going to be semi-busy, but I'm going to focus you on a few areas and we're going to move on. I don't want to spend a lot of time. The idea is there has been fiscal, I think there's been borrowing of operational funds, borrowing money for operational funds. I'll go through how I think, I believe that's the case going on here. So there's some fiscal things that have been done in the past. And again, don't shoot the messenger because I'm providing all this. I've been in office for 7 months, and it's a lot of effort to get to the point to really start understanding what's really going on in our town. So what I'm going to talk about is the structural deficit. We have a revenue structural deficit year over year that is at least around $500,000, the way it's set up right now. I've got some ideas of what we're going to tackle in 26 to deal with this, but it's the reality we find ourselves in as of the 3rd week of October. That's where we are. It's been building for 4 to 5 years. I'll show you how that's been, I can show you how it's been building. And then the other thing that's very key for us, which I will go through a little bit of information, is we really haven't been doing any CapEx planning. So it's all been lumped into Fund 100. Very hard to isolate what capital is in that Fund 100, and what we are going to do is move to a separate fund for that. I'll go through that a little bit later. I'm going to show you some loan history, what the debt service is doing over the last 5 years, and then what the impact of the tax levy is. That'll be less impactful at this point, based upon our desire to move away from a fire protection fee. So the other thing I'm going to hit on is we really took at that budget workshop, we all sat around the table and basically said, what can we do to cut spending right now? So there was spent cost, like sunk costs that wasn't noted, like compensated overtime or something that may not have been in the business system. But anything that we could control from that point forward, we locked down, and we were able to contribute some bottom line to help offset some of this. I'll show you that as well. I'll show you what's been going on public safety-wise for us. It includes police, it includes fire, and it includes rescue. So all of those things will show you how our cost has been semi-exponentially going on. And there's some things we need to look at in 26 to see what's going on, and hopefully make some impacts. I got 2 charts in there that I'm going to go through that should be helpful for you. And then I have a summary of operational reduction, operational costs that I think are actions for, it's kind of our action plan for 26. That's the objective. And then I have a comparable mill rate. I just will spend 2 minutes on it. I just want to show you what we are relative to other areas, and then we can have some general discussion, or it's just a data point for you. So go to the next. Before we move to the charts, the thing I wanted to make sure clear for the board as well as for you, according to town, this is different than village and city, the town board is legally responsible for the proposed annual budget, and they officially adopt the final version. So that's what our responsibility is here. So when we vote to approve that, that's our account, we're accountable for that. Which is different in other municipalities and how they're structured. Now, the town treasurer function is the primary place that supports this effort, and they assist providing financial information, forecasting of any revenues, cash, historical data, all during this budget season. But what we've been missing is there really hasn't been any preparation of charts, financial reports that show trending, multi-year historical financial information, and those were the things I was trying to get a hold of when I was asking for an export out of our business system. So we created that, and I will have some of that for you. What, for the board's benefit, if we don't have that internal competency, then we are allowed to appoint either, and you're not appointing me, so don't think that, but you can appoint town staff, you can appoint a town member, or we can get a financial advisor to help us. And I think we've made a big step forward. I think I'll include some of these things with the RFQ that you and I have to work on to go out for some financial advice. So I just want everybody to understand where the responsibilities lie and why we would be looking to go to a financial advisor for outside for help. So let's go to the first chart.
When you go out for an advisor, will you get shoes?
No, we're not. We're using suggestions from, we had Dave Brettel in here from PAA. He had someone from Baird. We had Ellers who
Goes to local?
Yeah, we're going to try and stay with like local municipalities, try and use. We also have Baker Tilly, that they have a group that we can rely on if we want. So I'm kind of thinking of those three. Now, for business services, we don't need to take 3 bids and compare them and take a little bid. So we'll probably evaluate them for what they're going to provide and what kind of resources they can be for us. And then it's not budgeted right now, so we'll then have to have a discussion about if we're thinking we want to do this for next year, then we'll have to find the money, so.
One of the original question, but, so who is the town treasurer?
I am.
Clerk treasurer.
Treasurer and every other responsibility.
Right, and that's,
Clerk treasurer.
okay.
I'll keep driving the treasurer.
That's why, so we've had a deputy clerk for 4 years.
Deputy clerk treasurer.
Deputy clerk treasurer, excuse me. And we had one for 4 years or better, and still that person is not in the business system, and I don't understand why. We're getting a license, and we're going to put a plan in place, and we're going to ramp that up. One of the things, the audit, I'm going to try and keep this really short, guys, but the audit has some issues that even talk about only one person is seeing the numbers, so we really need to have multiple people looking. If we have multiple people, if it's clerk treasurer, I don't know that we can get away from an auditor, but there's some things that, some flexibility that you have if you can get more people involved.
We are looking to balance the work duties across the team. Appreciate that.
So up here, I think it might be easier to get up here and just talk. So this is not intended to, we're not going to spend 30 minutes on this thing. What I want you to look at is the top is the revenue, the bottom is the expenses, and then this is where revenue over expenses. So I'm going to show you this in a chart later, but so from 22, we were overspending our revenue by 29,541, and it's right in those reports. If you want to look, there's a place on the back where it actually shows that number. Then we went to 23, and we're at 129, 267 in the hole. So maybe we could get there. Yeah, I know.
Cut it for
We're deep. Anyway, so then if you go to 24, it's 289, and then this, I'm guessing, is going to be in the high 300s. When we get done, 25 is not complete yet, so it's really not usually measurable for what we are doing here. And then if you go to our 26 budget, we're projecting at 449, and that's what we discovered in third week of October. So the purpose for this is to show you that the reports you have or can get a hold of should reflect this, but you're not going to see this in this fashion because that I had to put together. What I did over here for purposes of walking away with a presentation, you can see what capital, how capital is encumbered in the financial report if we just have it in Fund 100. So the objective, and I believe Clerk Buchanan, we're going to have a Fund 400
Yes.
this year for 26? Yeah. So what we're going to do is take all these capital pieces, and that's going to be put in Fund 400, so everybody's going to be able to see what is capital and then what is operations. Yes, sir.
If I can ask a quick question, because everybody balances their checkbook, on a monthly basis. We give an annual budget, but these are actual real fund costs that we have. How will we balance our budget from 22, 23, and 24?
It's called fund balance.
So we're borrowing that money that hasn't been known to people?
It's complex.
Okay.
I'm trying to simplify it, and we will get to sections. We have borrowed or taken money to the tune of $8.8 million over the last 8 years.
Okay.
I'm going to show you how we got that. And prior to that, we didn't take anything since 2013. And that was about 800 grand. So we went 4 years with no loans, and then all of a sudden, the bucket opened up. And for the better part of 5 years, it was 6-digit loans. For the last 3 years, it's been 7-digit loans. And I'm going to show you that process. So if you just bear with me a little bit, we can talk about this. The thing is, for us, I want a balanced budget. I don't want to put something up that we don't believe, or we come in afterwards and come up with a number. So we made this budget balance by taking $325,000 out of the landfill, and we're expecting the $124,000 from fund balance that we found this year to then offset next year. Now, this is not desirable. It's not a budget I want to sign up to, but we have to keep the government open, and I got to find a way to get us into 26. And then I will show you the things we've got to do in 26 to figure this out and bring costs down, and/or restructure debt, and/or whatever. I'll have a summary of that I can show you, all right? But this represents to me the deficit. And so if you move these up where they should be to balance this, one of the things that creates a problem is we put a budget together, and then we've got comp time and these payouts that go on that are over and above the budget. So that's another thing, without having trends to show forecasting of what's going on, you don't know. You're seeing budget, and then you say year-to-date. It's really hard. And then I think the other thing is, how often are we updating the journal entries? How often is that happening? Is it happening on a monthly basis or a weekly basis or whatever? That also allows you to look at a budget and determine, are we up or down, and should we put some control on this item because it's going out of sight? These are the loans on this. The fees, which we're not, the board has to vote on, but I'm pretty sure the information we found out this morning tells us we are probably not going down that path. And then the levy. There's two components to the levy that I think is important for everybody to understand. The top component, if you see where it's been, it's pretty much like right around 1.3. It doesn't go anywhere very much. There's a little fluctuation. There's two components that have an impact on that. The state legislature back, and I never looked up the actual date when this began, but it was around 2000 or 2001 when they put the levy limit thing in. I don't remember. But since that time, wherever we were in our revenue or taxing, it got fixed. And so then we are limited to a certain amount of increase And another piece is due to net new construction, and we really haven't had a lot of net new construction. And so that growth does not expand that top number very much. So you're going to see it remains pretty flat all the way through. It drops with a fee because when you check that box, it reduces your top levy. And that's one of the reasons why we don't want to do it, I think, as of tonight, okay? We'll explain it more to you. The bottom part, if you look, the debt service, 449, 579, 672, 792, and now 826. When we borrow, so if we're borrowing funds, which are on this line, each time we borrow those funds, now it goes into our long-term debt, and we're paying an annual fee to pay that down, principal and interest. And so that is what debt service represents. The levy limit itself does not control debt. So what we hear from our auditor all the time is, well, you can borrow up to $50 million, and there's no restrictions, as long as you're in good standing, financial standing. Well, the issue is, though, it will show up on that line, and we all see it as a tax. It does show up. So I think it's yes, go ahead.
I think how our auditor always presents it is like our credit rating, right?
Right.
Is A plus or plus.
We have the capability
Right.
of borrowing up to
And
$60
based on
million.
credit rating, yeah. But to repay it, we'd be in trouble.
And the way it's used, the connotation in the way it's used is like, oh, you aren't even close. You got tons of room. I don't like that. I don't live that way with my own finances. I don't think the town should live that way. So that's the reason why. And can you click it over? I don't know if I'm going to try and just stay here. Yes. I don't want to get into this. It's the same chart. But what I did is, one of the things that became painfully clear to me is we never broke apart what operations and capital is. So it's all rolled up in that Fund 100, and it never really got broken out. So when we go to loan, like for each year, all I'm trying to convey is how the process worked, what is in the actual budget, because these 3 years, these 2 years, since I added a second one here, I had to take 22 off, but for these 2 years, they're done. We're at the end, we have final numbers. So all these yellow numbers are actual capital. Now, you're not going to capitalize not 292, but those were the lines we used in here to say what are capital, because we really didn't have a way to do it otherwise. So then I stayed with that and went across. So if you look at where our financials are showing potential capital and where we borrow for, you're going to see that we're, like in this case, for fire and rescue, this is one of the biggest problems that sort of exacerbated this, us finding this issue. We're borrowing 320, but the capital that's in our finances is only 110. So these are the things that tell me maybe we're borrowing for operations. It's really hard to assess that by looking at things. But you can see we're up higher than what our capital is. We had a town hall project for the police garage. That's happened here. And for the life of me, I don't understand how we didn't capitalize that. And so it came out of funds in the town budget. I think there were possibly transfers from the landfill fund. I can show that later. But I'm just looking at the decision-making that was done in the past. Here we got a 231 for 25, and I'm only seeing 45, 785 this year. I don't know if we have another payment or not. So it's really hard to use 2005 as anything. It's year-to-date, and so there might be payments that haven't been made yet. The best place to look here is we have a ladder truck in the budget for fire, and I'm not quite sure what this is.
Ambulance.
And it is an ambulance, okay. So these two are the capital items that are on this year that really caused us to want to focus on how can we just not borrow so much. And that's why we went to a fire protection fee thinking we could do that. We found out we can't even borrow for capital. And that was this morning. So I'm sorry for the late-breaking news, but it's just, we've been seat of the pants trying to put this together and keep it moving towards December 15th to keep our government open. So if you look at how, what effectively happens on this sheet, the fire protection fee, we were looking at offsetting our borrowing by 601 with the fire protection fee. Well, we really can't do that at this point. So therefore, you take that out of there, and now the loan value has to go up. Now that is adjusted downward because our levy limit went up. You can see 1,256 went to 1,358. The big issue is the levy limit is limited forever, never changes. And I've heard from people where they tried to be fiscally responsible and do this kind of thing, only to find out they lost millions of dollars over multiple years because they lowered their level, so they couldn't levy it. So this is really all I'm trying to convey here with this report, is where I think we've been probably borrowing for operational costs. I think we also have been probably applying fund balance to this, because when we were in the workshop, right, the first workshop, or second, when the auditor was with us, she said we had about 130,000 in fund balance. So that's like, if you're a private industry, it would be owner's equity, or what's the term? There's a term for it where it's kind of value that you have as an owner, it's value that we have as a town, and it can be used to offset these expenses. It's simply like your checkbook, and if your balance gets too low, you don't have any checks to write anymore. Can you flip? Any questions or?
Kim, I think part of that town hall building expense, was that still ARPA funds as well? So we had some.
Oh, ARPA was where,
$100,000 on our.
I meant to go find the ARPA schedule, and I didn't have time. So, yeah.
If we wouldn't be addressing this now, trying to get a balanced budget, we kept borrowing and borrowing, would eventually have to raise tax rate through the roof.
I think you default. We would have to either go to referendum and say, like we were talking about, there's a couple of, options you can look at. You would go to referendum for like police, fire, and rescue, and say, and so the only way to do that really is to do the projections. I'll get to the slide where I tell you a little bit about what we're doing for capital planning, and it may become more clear there. But if we had a full schedule for 20 years, which is probably what a ladder truck life is, and then you lay it all out, what are the expenses, and then level load that every year, what do I have to put away to pay for that? That amount, that level load amount should be going into a designated fund. And this is, for 3 years, I sat in those chairs. And the reason why I'm sitting here is because I wasn't being heard. And I was at the last November 24 budget hearing and probably talked for 20 minutes about the unsustainability of borrowing. And then we talked about the ETA ESD formula and how that worked. And there was a lot of head shaking yes, we kind of agree with you, but we haven't been able to do anything about it. So I'm going to try and do something about it. That's why I'm here. Is that good enough?
And that was some of the stuff that David Rutherford was saying, that you gotta start budgeting for things that are gonna be on your horizon.
He also made a comment about a dangerously low fund balance. That should not be 100, or it should be up a little bit. And part of the fund balance was used to pay for, I believe, I don't know, part of the town hall or something, there was fund balance used for some of this cost. Just a quick slide on our loan. Up here, I want to point out that this is the schedule I have of information. May not be completely up to date. They definitely didn't add 26 on here, which is going to be 2 million. But if you look at the date, 5/8/2013, we took out a 10-year loan for $720,000. And then we sit for 4 years with no loans. And then we went nuts. And what my problem is, this is the part that I was trying to bring to the board when I was sitting out there, is we're sitting here with 6-digit borrowing going all the way through about 23. Now we're into 7-digit borrowing. And now this year, we're going to be at 2 million. So now we just clicked over that mark. It's unsustainable. We can't keep up doing this. We can't do it. So if we continue to increase, we've been hitting it every year. And so our balance, so this is the part that we start talking about that 50 million credit rating, okay? Well, we're creeping up. We're at 5.4, 5.5 right now. Maybe one of these drop off, one or so, but we're going to add a 2 million over here. So that number's not going down, and it's going up. And it would continue to go up if we don't get control of our expenses and start doing the right financially, fiscally responsible things. So any questions on this before we move on? Go to the next one. So this is borrowing and transfer resolutions over the last, from 2017. So I picked that number where the loans were and just went back and pulled resolutions. We have borrowed $8.6 million or transferred it out of our landfill fund. So it was 1.2 way back when. We pulled it down to 1 million, I believe, for the town hall design that never got built. And then we transferred another 322 from landfill. And then on the resolution, it says 52 police squad, 230K town hall building improvements. So there, we're using landfill fund, which is not a never-ending balance. It's down to about 350 or so at this point. And I'm proposing of the 600 and some that was there, we're borrowing that to make this budget work this year to get us through 26 so that we can continue to work on lowering costs and bringing it back together. But you can see all the loans totaling 8.6 million. When you look at 50 million compared to 8.6, that's getting close to 20% of our limit. You keep on the path. You can't keep doing that. So, you want any questions before I move on? Go ahead. So these were some of the spending budget issues that we immediately identified at the workshop, okay? One of the big things is health insurance. We right now have what is in essence a PPO plan, fully paid. The employee pays some, but it's an expensive program. So that's an action. We're going to try and implement, and just so everybody understands, we are not, this is not to penalize the employee. This is to bring down our health care costs. And I think, Chief, you told me a while ago at one of your conferences, basically was able to go to a high deductible plan, and they paid some amount into 75% into the deductible, the high deductible. So they were keeping the employee, that was the insurance guy shaking his head. So they were keeping the employee as whole as possible in the process, giving them pretty much the same benefits, but the cost of the town went down a lot, and that was Maguanago, I think. So we're looking at that aggressively to see what we can contribute to the bottom line in that area. I'm not gonna go through these, I wanted you to understand that we're not sitting on our duff. We went through at that point, and we are working through the end of the year to bring down costs. And then we were investigating this, but that didn't go anywhere, I don't think. We're working on it. Any questions here? Next slide. Oh, sorry.
But how are we holding the line when we've got a credit card kiosk for the boat launch at 26,000, town administrator for 20,000, and AV equipment for 50,000? I mean, if we're on such a financial cliff, those are things that we should take a breath and hold back. I mean, that's almost $100,000 worth of money that we could put in a fund balance or.
So, I can answer that question. We need to restructure the way our town does business. And that is going to happen under my watch. Part of those costs you're talking about is to do that. Why have we had only one person in the business system for the last 4 years while we had a deputy clerk to be in it? There was a request made by Chairman Clarkowski and the attorney for the deputy clerk treasurer to be brought into the system. So we are going to move that way so that we can start analyzing and looking forward to this. You can't, penny wise, dollar foolish is what comes with that to me. We got to look at the things we can do to improve our operations. And if kiosk, one of the complaints, I don't know if it's a complaint, an observation.
At the boat launch, it is that nobody's there to take the money and.
Well, and it's on the honor system in a lot of way. The auditor talks about it, and we're talking, this is 40 grand worth of money, I think. I think this, well.
It's about 30 grand, it's 26 something, I believe.
And it's a big number that we should get control of, and how much are we not getting because we don't have controls. So I think, and we're borrowing capital funds for that, and I think we need to do that, and I think the board agreed that we needed to do that to try and get control of our costs. So I think we're being smart with where we're spending money, and it's just not that much. I don't know, we'll go through, maybe I got it on a previous slide, I can show you what we're doing. But any other thoughts on this? Can you go to the next slide? All right, I X that out because I think it's going to be up around where the dotted line is, but I only have actuals to date around October. So here's where we've been. Police has been in this range. So you can see the gray. So we're up in this range for police, and that's police. Then we got building inspection, and there's nothing magical with the numbers. It just was easy to pull the chart together using this. The fire and rescue is probably the key point. We're going through peaks and valleys on this capital. I know you two are trying to work with ETA, ESD to bring this into some more control. But there is a projection provided by the fire and rescue for capital going out, I think, 20 years even. So therefore, we have an understanding of what that is. We're going to lay that in on top of what we're doing for a town. We're talking about the police for capital, DPW for capital, and building maintenance for capital. Those are the three components that the town has mainly. So we're working up a schedule. We're going to try and have that in first quarter put together. And then if you overlay these and look out 20 years, you should be able to come up with a level load that can go into that and pay for that without us getting with these peaks and valleys. Yes, sir.
So, based on your color code graph there, fire and rescue, but that's on an
No.
That's based on what was purchased, the ladder truck and this and that, so that.
It's a peak.
It's a peak that was gonna be amortized over 5 years, 10 years, whatever, that's gonna be what we're gonna need.
We're on the hooks.
Borrowing.
We're on the hooks for that today, or next year, sorry, with regard to this budget. That's because we have not been doing the planning, and we are not level loading. So if I've got to have $1 million, I got to do the math simple here. 10 years, $1 million, that's $100,000 a year. If I'm putting $100,000 a year over 10 years, at the end of that, I can pay the $1 million. It's in a designated fund, and I don't have to come after the public for that. So that is part of our capital. It's one of two major initiatives that I'm going to summarize for you here for us in 2026 that we got to get a handle on. But yeah, this is a peak that we're experiencing this year, and we probably would have seen it this year if the fire company wouldn't have, or the manufacturer
Manufacturers had to come in on time.
would have been here. So,
But instead, we spent it this year on.
right, and so without the forecasting, without the understanding of the budget, without this trending information, the board is up here unable to say whether we can approve something or not. So Todd comes in and says, I want a brush mower or something, and it's only $30,000 and we're getting a good deal, and so we're sitting here going, okay, how do we validate that? We just didn't have the tools to be able to validate. So one of the things that this year, in fact, I said, because some of those DPW, one of the DPW purchases was a kind of a fiasco from my point of view. And so going forward, we will not spend anything outside the budget. If it's budgeted, got a ladder truck, budgeted, we'll do it. If it's pumper, we're not doing it. It's not going to happen. And it's going to be a lot of thought if we are going to do it if it's outside the budget. So that's another area that we're trying to be a little more disciplined going forward. Any other questions on this? Yes, ma'am. That is our component of a ladder truck. 909, well, it's got some other, it's got operate, what else is in there? It's not just a 994, what? Oh, the ambulance. Yeah, so I did put it up there. Equipment at the fire department. And
That's just our portion.
That's together, operations and capital.
yes, it probably is both. This isn't just capital. This is kind of showing, I was going to add a total on the columns, and it just didn't, I didn't have time. But this just shows the expense, yes?
Charged with two other areas, right? And I think I remember hearing a few meetings ago that we're paying way more than the other groups are paying.
Well, we're paying, it's a percentage, like I think our percentage is 52% right now, the village is 40%, 42%,
47,
and then Town of Spring Prairie is another.
8.
7 or 8, yep.
That comes out, right.
Whatever.
And that's not based on population, obviously.
Well, it's based on 3 different things. It's based on calls, it's based on,
5-year average of calls.
what's that?
It's a 5-year average of calls since we have members.
Yes.
It's not an annual call number.
But-
It's an average of calls, and the real estate value, and the total realized value, that's where we get hammered in the town, because our realized value is like 1.3 billion, and the village is like 700 million, I think. So that brings us up, so that's what we're working on. I'm trying to work with them to get that equation changed, because like last year, for like EMS, the town had, I think, 265 calls or something in there, and the village had like 501. So my argument is, why that's based on an individual, in my opinion, on the EMS side, not the fire side, should be based on
Property.
realized and property value. So I got the
We-
boxing gloves on.
We went in with the formula, looking at the formula, and they have the property value and improvements as two components at 25% apiece, 50% on calls. An ambulance call is a person, it's not a property, it's not a building. And so the no-brainer answer was take those out, put it all on calls, and we are credited with about $100,000. It's so there's some merit in this, and then you were looking at it from just a call perspective, and then we were looking at other municipalities that are sort of using our services, but they're not part of the group. So there's just a whole structure that we're trying to look at that I think should have been probably looked at last time we signed. But anyway, these are the constraints we have. Yes, Bob?
I understand you want to set money aside for future expenses. The ladder truck, $1 million this year, a lot of people borrow from our one-time hits. Years past, it was like we're taking money from the landfill budget.
Yeah.
If we collect money for those one-time expenses down the road, what safeguards are there to prevent the next guy who's in your seat from taking money from that fund to start funding other?
You can't. It would be, well, you could probably answer better, but it's restricted, right? It's dedicated?
Yeah, the board would have to make a decision to do so. It wouldn't be just one person. The chair isn't in charge, he's in charge of the running the meeting. The chair can't make an individual decision, so it would have to come before the board, and the entire board would have to vote on any issue.
But they could just like they take money from the landfill.
Correct.
Okay.
You could take it from a dedicated, I thought a restricted or dedicated fund you could not touch. I thought that took,
By a board decision, I mean, there's some stuff that is completely restricted, but some is a designated fund. Say it's designated for fire equipment or fire and rescue. That
So-
money, if needed, it could be moved to roads or something like that by a board decision.
then we have to look at that. That's not what I had in belief. I thought we would be collecting for that expense. I don't believe in leaving government to control their destiny. It just, that doesn't make sense. No, I understand, but it's a problem. That's a problem. And I'm trying, like, for the borrowing from the landfill, I want to put a resolution in, we're going to pay it back. We can't just keep, you saw the other sheet, we borrowed, we didn't borrow, we stole $500,000 out of the landfill to pay for things that I don't even know that anybody knew they were paying for with that money. So I think we need to be a little more fiscally responsible. That's really all I'm trying to do. And if there's ways to put controls in place, I'd like to say the board is very amenable to that. Yes, sir.
When we're doing all this borrowing, do we get a special interest rate, or do you think everyone else is paying for borrowing?
One of the things that was recommended was maybe next year, we look at all our borrowing and maybe take it to a bond and get it down into the two. We're not getting special rates. We're going to banks.
There's
Well-
some that are.
5.2, I think.
Yeah, go back.
Show the
Well, and
rates.
rates are negotiated. I go out, I contacted multiple banks. I start with the local, or the Board of Commissioners of Public Lands at their rate. And usually our local banks underbid them, so we are getting the best rates. And we're paying less than Joe Schmo consumer that would go out for a loan.
But
So we
they're
are-
not bond rates. So one of the ways, and if you look at, okay, so if we borrow money to buy something, we're paying interest. So we're paying more than what we paid for that truck or whatever. If we have designated funds in place, then we're paying for it outright, and we're not putting all that percent in. So we're saving the interest that's being charged right now to the citizen. I think it gets, when you start getting the big numbers, that's a big deal. So, okay, can you go forward again? Please, yeah, please.
That's one more, we're done?
Yeah, I think it's one.
This is the next one.
Okay. One thing that I wanted to try and show everybody, and this may or may not be easy for you, but if you look at the debt service levy, it's been going up. It was 26%, it's 31, it's 34, it's 37, and it's going to 38. So our debt service is going up as a proportion to what the budget is. And so the objective is to probably try and not do that. The orange down here is showing how we've been slowly eroding our equity, be it landfill funds, be it fund balance that we're eating up that should be there and left for the next year to maybe keep our. The other thing is, if you look, I didn't even do this, but one of my issues throughout my 3 years sitting out there was we had budgets being proposed, and we say the levy is 3% increase, and then but you look at the budget and it's like 8% increase, and I'm going, okay, that doesn't make sense. But it makes sense if you think about the levy's limited, and if we just point to that, it looks good, but our cost, our taxpayer cost is going up. And my intent is to try and control that, control it and bring it down where we can and keep it reasonable. We don't need to be spending more money than we need to. So that's what this does. You can kind of see, so we've been just continuing to rob here, our equity. The green you can kind of see is it's other revenue, and I'm not quite sure why this one's up at this point, but the gray loan proceeds you can see is kind of going up. This is a plug to just make the whole number balance at whatever our top line revenue is. That's why that's what it is.
Chairman Joe?
Yes, ma'am.
The reason there was a bump is because of Act 12, there was a huge increase in shared revenue.
So this is a shared revenue piece here?
It's part of that.
Cool. That's a good thing,
Yes,
I
it is.
think. Any questions on this? Just a data point. Can you move, please, to all right, so actions to reduce. There's two initiatives, in my view, for 2026. We've got to put some scrutiny on the operations, and that's the structural, that's the $500,000 structural revenue deficit. So we're looking at health insurance plan investigation to see if we can bring that down. If we can bring that down to 50 to 100,000 bucks, that's 100 off the top of that number. If we do a deep dive, these are some of the big increases. I saw the computer is not a huge amount of money, but it was a high percentage. We need to understand what we're doing in that area. Law enforcement is up 57% in 4 years. I think we need to look at that. Fire is up 215 and 286 on the rest of you from 2022. That's what I have up here, I believe, right now.
So that's capital and operating on fire and rescue.
Yes, that's just the overall cost. Yep, that's both. But so the problem is, though, that's impacting us in a big way. And so we got to get control of it. And, you know, if you talk throughout the state, they're going to tell you that everybody's dealing with this fire and rescue thing. But the issue, that's not a cop-out for me. We need to deal with it. You don't just say everybody's dealing with that, so let's just borrow more money or whatever. It doesn't make sense. We got to get control of it. So I think we need to focus in those areas. And then I want to do a level load town budget for this capital, which will come out of this effort here. And then I want to look at, I don't know if we'll get to it or if it makes sense, but if there's a way to restructure debt, bring it all together, get it at 2 or 3%, which is what I'm thinking, we could really lower what we're getting impacted, especially if we get control of our borrowing and we know what we're doing. I think that's important. So I think that comes along with really getting a handle on our business or our municipality. I talk I was in the private sector, so owner's equity is the number I was trying to come up with. In a business, owner's equity is the equity piece that if I sell X and I can bring in the cost below X, the difference is what pays for overhead and goes into profit, and if you're not using it, goes into owner's equity. That is kind of what our fund balance is. It's sort of in that equity area. And then the second major thing, which has already been started, we'll have a Fund 400, like Clerk Buchanan said, that is going to have all those things. Remember, I had all those yellowed things? Those are going to be put in this fund. We're going to see very clearly when you get a financial report, you're going to say, Fund 400, that's all capital. So the issue would be, are we borrowing for that capital, and how much of it should not be over the capital? That should not be the case. We should not be borrowing for operations, not if you're fiscally responsible. So long-term capital planning, I just spoke of, we're going to be working on, it's a kind of a spreadsheet, but you lay out all your purchases over 20 years or 25 years, try and look at where it's going to fall, and then come up with a level load that would allow you to pay for that without borrowing huge amounts of money. That would mean we'd be making, taxpayers would be making a contribution to pay that in the future rather than paying interest after the fact. That's the concept. And that's called capital planning. The ultimate goal is to level load. I don't like peaks and valleys because you never know if you can afford it or not. So it's better to control that. Any questions on any? Yes, ma'am.
Just to me, wearing 200% just seems like an awful large percent increase. What is making up that? Is that the truck, the new truck?
No. So there's a couple of factors.
We want full-time.
We're full-time paid, not volunteer. So that happened around 22, and that's when this started. That's when I started screaming uncle and bringing concerns about then buying a ton of capital, and then we just kept moving forward at that point. So that's a main focus is the fire.
When they want full-time, the chief is bringing everything up to standard. And that is why that number is so big.
And what do you do about that?
Well,
That's tough.
I kept hearing, again, when I was sitting over there, I kept hearing, it's an unfunded mandate that we have to do this. Well, you talk to people that are in the business of doing this stuff. The NFPA is a standard. That's a standard like ISO 9000. I used to live by standards. We used to audit to standards, right? A standard is a standard. It's not a certification. It's not a law. So one of the things in talking with other people, I know North Shore is a pretty gold standard type of fire district. One of the things is like a tank for breathing going into a fire. Yeah, but the point is, we can buy one tank, and if the tank certifies, if an old tank certifies and it's past its age, it can still be used. There's no reason that everything has to be brand new. And there's no reason why everything has to be up to that standard. So I think there's some area there that we can probably have some impact. I don't think you're going to get all of that with that solution, but you asked for how we deal with it. There's one area to make sure we're not going farther than we absolutely need to be safe and deliver the services to the public. I don't know that we might not have gone a little far on that. I thought with
And of that percentage, how much of that is capital?
I'd have to go back.
Like this year, the capital for fire is $995,000 and operational is $45,000.
For fire.
For fire. EMS is around $225,000 for operational and the $200,000 or something.
220 or something, right, for the capital.
The reason why I bring that up is I'm not sitting on this board, I don't pay much attention to what goes on, but I did a little bit of research, and it sounds like a lot of other municipalities around the state that fire and whatever fee pretty typically. I mean, it sounds like a lot of places are going to that. You know, to me, as a resident, to pay $100 or $150 more a year to give us a full-time good service for fire doesn't seem as bad as a tax increase of 1%. And the reason why I say that is, we live on a lake, our house is worth $250,000, but our land is worth
Sure.
$1 million. So we're getting a heavy hit every time the taxes go up. But if we only have to pay an additional $100, $200, that's more palatable.
The one thing that really took the wind out of my sail on that is we can't use a fee for capital.
But you can use it for another percentage of it.
It's only the $45,000.
But maybe you lower the amount you're gonna be doing and.
I agree.
Chip away.
The issue is we lower our levy limit, which is going to permanently restrict us from taxing going forward. So it's not like we're adding something, we're actually taking something away to add something, and then what we're adding is so minimal compared to what we're taking away, it starts being just, I don't even know why a fee exists, quite frankly, for fire. I just don't get it. When they say you can't use it for capital, and it lowers your levy limit, I just don't understand how that is a benefit.
If you look on the second page, it'll show you that our levy limit, if we do the fire fee, goes down basically $1 million, but we're only gaining $450,000 by doing the fire district fee. And then we'd have to do that fee every year, and we always lose that levy. We can never go back up to that 1.3 million.
Never.
We're stuck at 1.35.
But the other thing, and I appreciate Ty, I appreciate you fighting for the formula of the village, because once again, the lakes bring a lot of tax revenue, but it's really an unfair revenue because the majority of the tax base is land. It's not, I mean, our puny little $250,000 house, it's not fair that we keep having to pay the bulk of the fees. You know, and it's like we're gonna get costed out of our property, and it's something that we inherited, and people from Illinois are building huge homes, and they're not getting the same hit as, you know, that land. That land it's an unfair disadvantage to people that live on a lake. And I think that's a fighting point for the village, that maybe you just compare the actual property, you know, the buildings rather than the land.
The other thing that's being looked at is through Mavis and maybe some agreements, we establish fees for surrounding communities when they call us for fire or rescue, right? Are we charging enough for those fees at the fire district? You know, there's a whole gamut of things to be looking at over there, and I think that's what Supervisor Leonard is trying to get into with Ken. There is so many holes in the ship that we're trying to deal with that we got to try and do the best we can with each one of these and keep moving it forward. And like I said, unfortunately, the budget that we're putting forward to you tonight is not desirable. It's not one I would love to give you, but it is the best we could do with what we're given right now to get us into 26 with a definite objective to start getting a hold of this. So if we could even come up with $300,000 off that number, that's a huge, big number to put us back in line instead of just artificially continuing to grow because we don't know what we don't know. We got to get some financials to be able to know.
Another quick question. So previous boards, were you sort of lulled into thinking this was all okay because auditors tell you you have a A+ rating, that, you know, just keep up our auditors, what are we supposed to do? And then now a new person in charge comes in and says, yeah, that just sounds too good to me. I mean, because again, it's great to point the finger at previous administrations, but it almost sounded like they were sort of given permission to keep on borrowing because that's what everybody does.
I don't know, without having tools to evaluate our finances and see what's happening and being able to provide feedback. I'm an engineer. There's a little thing that says, here's your function, and then there's this feedback mechanism that comes around. If you don't have any feedback, how do you adjust the control system? There's nothing to control. And go ahead.
To answer your question a little bit, from my perspective, this is my second year dealing with the budget. So last year, my head was spinning when we did the budget. And I think Clerk Buchanan can attest to that, because afterwards I came into her office and I said, I need someone to help me understand how you guys are doing this. And she tried to explain, and we worked or whatever, but now this year, and I just, really, Chairman Jones has put an effort in here that's unbelievable to me. The time that's been put into this, not including everything else that we're going through in our town. And the understanding that he brought to me more of what's going on with this budget. So I would like to personally thank him for that and bringing it to everyone's attention. But yeah, I think in the past, I know that last year sitting here, when you're sitting in the chair for 3 months or 4 months, and all of a sudden budget time, as a junior supervisor, whatever you want to call, freshman, whatever, it's very hard to figure out. And I know that I talked to Chairman Jones before he was even on the board about it, being like, wow, this budget doesn't make sense to me. Why are we going through these peaks and valleys? How do we fix this? And now that he's bringing all this, to me, it helps me understand it more. So I don't know if that answers your question, but it kind of explains.
This isn't necessarily blaming past administration.
No.
The point for putting data up is, it's fact. I didn't create this stuff. It's what we've been doing. Is it blind leading the blind? Is it not having the tools to be able to measure this? I don't know. But the bottom line is, the past is the past. That is the facts, and we gotta fix it. I don't see how we can continue doing that. That's up there. So I don't. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Can you remind me about what the landfill money, where it came from, what it is, and what it's supposed to be used for?
What? Go ahead.
And the landfill on Highway 120 was an active landfill for many years. During the period that it was open, the town collected money, like transfer fees and stuff like that, that were paid to the town because the landfill was in our community. So there are currently basically 3 accounts to landfill. There's a landfill CD, which is where the money is being drawn for next year's budget. There's a landfill operating fund, which currently has like $378,000 in it, and that money is specifically for well testing, so that the wells surrounding the landfill, the one on 120 and the one on Highway L, the old town dump, that those wells are good to go, that there's no contaminants going into individual property owner wells. And then the last account is a reserve fund, which the money in there is set aside for that. Say a well near the landfill gets contaminated, if that money is, or if there becomes an issue with that landfill, and if a property owner who lived in their property when the landfill was open and operating, or a direct descendant of that property owner that still lives in that property, if there's a detriment to their property when they go to sell it, that reserve fund is supposed to make up the difference of what their property is assessed for and what they're able to sell for.
Which the line is generating tipping fees, correct?
Yes, when it was open and operating, correct.
Which we don't have right now because we've been borrowing from that fund, so
We've been taking and borrowing.
to the town. Now it's gonna come out of our
Was
budget.
that-
We spent that money on other operational expenditures, so we don't have that.
No, that's
No, the money's still there.
There's three funds.
Dedicated fund.
Yeah.
You can't have
We're
all.
taking it out of the CD.
So this is funds that after 20 years?
Yeah, because the landfill closed in 19,
Boy, that's almost long ago.
the 1990s, somewhere in the 1990s, the landfill closed. So, and at that time, original property owners were reimbursed their full property taxes because they lived within viewing distance, smelling distance, whatever, their property taxes were reimbursed, which is a whole historical note. But that, their money's still there. Money has been withdrawn, as Joe stated, for planning, for the town hall building, that never happened. And then 1 year to do similar to what's being done in 2026 to purchase items which were like a squad and other stuff. So,
I have a question.
yes, sir.
Does the landfill produce any profit at this point?
No, it's a closed landfill.
Just
Is
interest.
I mean,
nothing to be done with it profitably?
Correct. The one on Highway 120 is owned by a private company who monitors it and stuff like that, so it's just a piece of property. Because it is a landfill, I doubt if anything can be built on that. And the other one is where our compost, the town compost site is on Highway L. So, I mean, it is used for town purpose.
But not profitably. It's
No.
it's basically interest on our CDs is basically all we're getting. So,
Joe, one other quick thing.
Yeah.
And this is going back to the initial conversation, which I didn't know to ask the question until we go deep into this. We talked about the sanitary district under the 2026 budget. This is the
Yeah.
first 2 minutes of the week.
yep.
We're looking at opportunities, ways to try to create a balanced budget. And I'm looking at this initial page here, page 2,
Yep.
and it was glossed over when it said total expenditures of $19,693.80.
Yep.
Designated funds, fund balance $18,000. Oh, and the rest is to be absorbed by the town.
No.
No.
No, the sanitary district 3 is self-sustaining.
That is self-sustaining.
Yeah.
So whatever expenditures or whoever's on that,
Is paying for
they're
it.
paying for that.
That's
So
right.
there's not a delta there that is being absorbed by it.
No.
It is
There's like
self-sustaining.
And it's also for,
All right, are we good?
I got a little sidetracked, but I'm just.
Okay, John.
When the county started at the Sioux Line Railroad still,
Right.
back in 72, and all the wells got contaminated down there, and Sioux Line, put in a deep well, and they gave water to the people that were affected by the spill for X amount of years, and now those people that believe are paying around $12,000-$14,000 a year for water to the town.
No, not even close.
Well, I heard you guys talk about that at a meeting 2
Well,
years ago.
I guess you would have to, if you wanted to add all of them together,
Yes, I mean,
all the
Yeah.
money.
then it
In
would.
our budget,
Yeah,
yeah,
there's-
13,782.
Yes.
What did they pay a quarter, Jane?
So your average resident pays less than $200 a quarter.
what is it, like 14 or 12?
There's 20 on the service, 19 of which are residents. One is Wisconsin Precision Casting. I apologize.
Okay, so that revenue source is already, that's taken into account into our budget here.
No.
No, it's
It's
separate.
Separate
Not in
entity.
this. No, that's why they're dealing separately on the agenda too. So 3 in the landfill are separate unless you see that we transfer funds into here or out.
Sanitary District 2, which is the sewer around Pond Lake, is also a completely separate entity that the town's general fund does not support whatsoever. The DPW does services for them, but they pay us for those services.
Yeah, Chuck.
I write a check to the town every month for DPW, for sanitary district.
Falls over that district.
Pardon me?
I I don't, it includes, does it include Miramar too?
Yeah,
Okay, so it could be that many, but,
Again, it's all
completely
entities.
separate.
It does not-
and then Chuck Decker is the president of that group, and so they have a 3-person board, they meet quarterly,
Monthly.
monthly, okay? So they meet regularly.
Yeah, they just can't do for a variance to all of the.
There's the pumps, we had some big concrete elevators that had to go down hundreds of feet, I don't know how far it went down, 50 feet, something, and they were starting to deteriorate. So what they did is the new pumping technology is they can pump it now and people don't have to go in that tunnel, so that's what was being done. I think there's 3 pump stations over there.
That was a cost savings for all I remember.
It was, rather than trying to replace all that, so, but that's separate, not part of this at all, okay? I don't need to spend a lot of time on the next slide, but I can show it to you. I pointed it out because these are just, you pull houses up off the GIS and you look at what the mill rates are. And if you see we're at, and this is at the top of your bill, so it's an overall composite. It's about 0.0108. And if you look at all the others, there are quite a few percentages higher. What I don't know is that related to the increased value of land here? Is that why the mill rate's so low? It probably could be part of that. Some people have brought that up, and I sit back and say, I don't know. I really don't know. There's a lot of reasons that might allow that to be lower than the rest because of the property value that's over here. Yes, sir. What?
For the mill rate, if you take totally what the property value for where you're taxing, you're gonna collect X, and that's how the mill rate is calculated.
That's correct.
So the higher the property value, the lower the mill rate is, the lower the property value, the higher the mill rate.
That's what I just said.
and that
Exactly.
mill rate of $10.80 includes the school districts, the town, the county, Gateway. So,
And the little lottery credit.
Jeannie, could you flip down like 3? Because I did put some backups here, right here, that one right there. So if you look at it, this is your tax bill, I wasn't gonna go through this, but these are the things that, you're paying Walter County this month. The town of East Creek is this month, okay, so on your tax bill, right there is what you're doing. Here's where the mill rate I was talking about is listed, and that's the assessed value of the property. So click down 2. Yeah, 2, right here. So if you look at this, and this was done because we were going to talk about a fee, a clarification fee. If you look at a town property value, this is what you pay for East Troy School District. Gateway is another technical college we're paying for. I'm sorry, let me move that out of the way, sorry. And anyway, so the point of the matter is, where is my percent for the school? Yeah. 50. So the fact of the matter is, if you stay here, the town of East Troy is roughly 20% of this, between garbage and whatever else you might have. Lake districts have a district fee, lake district fee and stuff. But you're looking at 20% of your tax bill goes to the town. That's what we use to operate. The huge component is the East Troy School District, and then the Gateway and all that educational activity. And I don't know if people fully appreciate that when they're looking at their tax bill. So, I think I'm done, unless somebody has some other questions. Did you want to add anything to this? Work you can.
The only thing, if anybody wanted to know why the computers and the police went up, the percentages they did. Computers, before 4 years ago, we didn't have a server here. So we finally got pulled into the 21st century. We now have a server, we have nightly backups, we have a lot more protection for our system overall. And then, for the police department, part of our shared revenue increase with Act 12 was we added another full-time police officer. And with the new building we built, obviously there's increased costs for heating, electricity, all that sort of thing.
Another office staff person as well. Because the deputy clerk.
But it's not police.
Right, but I have computers.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah.
Computers and other staff.
So that's not, I think getting into the 21st century is good. I think we could really save ourselves a lot. Another thing I didn't even list there is if we had access through an FTP site or something, a way to store our information on a server here.
We do.
I can't.
Oh, you can, but
I'm saying, if all of us were, then open records requests are like that. They're all electronic. So right now, we have a lot of stuff in paper yet. It's now manually looked. So you look at how we could optimize the town staff impact. I think some of these things could be looked at. Obviously, this is a multi-year process, but I think they're fair.
John had a question.
Yes, sir.
I understand managed district is gonna allocate like $50,000.
That's correct.
Fund a police patrol. Is that gonna be an additional another officer we're gonna hire for that money?
It's a seasonal officer, and Chief Greg, did you want to address it? Or do you want me to? Okay.
But it's, you're for people patrol officers. That's what that money is for. And full patrol officers.
So that'll just be for a short portion of the year when the summer months are.
Seasonal. So one of the things, when we were in our workshop, we started looking at these huge numbers that were a problem. And we said, we can't hire a whole officer, we gotta get somebody dedicated to this. And so that's where he went after that and was able to find, I think you might have somebody, right? Identified at this point?
Yes.
So, I think it's something we need to do. I don't think we can take it back. We also are working with the Lake District, so I didn't want to cut that. So that's why we kept going with that, yes.
Is that gonna be something that's gonna be, granted from the managed district to the town every year for future voting seasons, or is that what you want done?
Our agreement is perpetual, okay? We can, there's been other discussions, we can raise it, we can lower it, we can do something if we want to, otherwise it's a perpetual. And so we're gonna see how this works and get a sense for what expenses we have, and hopefully we can home in on that piece. But it's very practical, it's done by a lot of lake districts with towns that are dealing with the policing, the boat patrol. So I really, that was a big issue we tackled this summer, and I didn't want to see it go away. So I think we're done with that. So now we go into any other questions before we move into the electors meeting? And this is where, so the explanation is, this budget hearing is, we get to convey all the information we have, we get to ask questions. I'm very open to hearing more, and we will be having more discussions next year. I'm thinking of having at least one, if not two, public hearings as we get into this, start laying out the costs, what you just saw, show how we're whittling away at it, or what we're looking at trying to fix it, and hopefully go through that process into the middle of next year, start a budget process. I'm really hoping we get a good number from elders or somebody so that we can have some help structurally going through this properly with the right emphasis on trends and other things. And then we'll go into the budget season much earlier than the end of September, because that was very, very late. And painful, yes, it was painful. So, okay, with that, I guess we don't have to end the budget here, right? We just move into, start up the next one?
Call the special meeting to order.
Okay, so we will call the special meeting of the electors to order at 6:59. And we don't need any roll call votes or anything, we're good?
No?
Okay, so, what we need, and it's an electors meeting now, so you're all the people that, yes, ma'am.
Oh, I was just gonna say, for the first item, only the people in sanitary district number 3 can address it.
Do we have people from sanitary district 3? I think we saw no.
So it would just be the 5 of you.
Just the 5 board members? Okay, so we need a motion.
I'll make a motion that we approve the 2025 sanitary district number 3 budget.
I'll second.
Any other discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? So that budget is approved. We,
2026. Payable of 2026.
so like your tax bill,
Yeah.
it says 25 on it. A lot of people pay it this year so that they can get it off their taxes.
The
But
electors portion, that it's 2025,
Oh, yeah.
and the town portion is 2026.
Oh, yeah, you're right. That's wrong.
Well, in the public hearing calls it 2026.
That's what he's saying, I think.
Yeah.
So I need on that.
I know.
Calling it the 26.
It's fine.
So did you say 2025?
I did.
Then what, we have another.
2026, we'll just make it 2026.
2026.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's just an agenda, kind of an agenda issue. Sorry about that.
Catching that?
All right, we need a motion for the,
Landfill.
we just voted. No, we voted. We voted, it was unanimous. So now we need a motion for the landfill budget. And it's 2026? So,
Anybody can make that motion.
Anybody?
and anybody here can make it too, so. Okay, 2026 landfill fund.
I'll second.
Okay, any other discussion?
This is a question. You said that you're going to turn the $376,000 expenditure reduction in this fund into some sort of a loan. Is that something that's going to be taken out tonight, or is that?
No, it's not taken.
Be in the future?
It's gonna be in the future, and it would be a resolution, would it not? So we'd have to say when, in fact, when we move those funds in 26, it would be a resolution either way. So it would probably say borrowing, and I really want to make it a borrowing, because I hate to not have, that's kind of a rainy day fund for us, and it's not that significant if we're down around 300 grand.
And I think the majority of the current board all agreed. We only want to take money from landfill if we have a plan to pay it back.
All right.
It was just a question as to how that was going to be implemented. That was all.
Yeah, the intent is a loan, but it'll be a resolution in the first part of the year. So we have a second.
Yes, motion and a second.
Yes, sir. Oh, okay, so any other discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed?
You all get to vote too.
Yeah, you can get your ayes. Now, motion to approve the 2026, right? Isn't that 26?
No, it's a 2025 tax levy.
Okay.
Payable in 20, or to be collected in 2026.
So when we get to this one, we have instructions, since we noticed the, agenda and budget with the fire protection fee, the levy was lowered. So, oh, you got it, you got it up there. I didn't know you had that there. Oh, no, it's not there. So, you remember I put the charts up with fee and without fee? It was like 1, 2, 5, 6, and then without the fee, it was 1, 3. No.
The yellow one.
Here, let me just pull it up.
Small print.
This one.
The second page.
That's the borrow.
Of the small print.
It's this one.
Yeah, the first page.
first page, so if you're looking at this, the levy, if we did a fee, was going to be 1,256,311, that artificially lowering our levy. If we get rid of the fee and we go back to our normal process, it is 1,358,945.
However, you need to do the entire levy, which includes the portion for debt service, which is a total levy of $2,185,000 and $185,068.
So what you're doing is you're allowing us to borrow, to hit you for taxes to pay for the borrowing that we've done in the past. We're paying down debt, that's debt service, and you're paying that levy limit number. So that is the number. Last year's was right around 2,000,001. This one is-
$2,130,436.
So it's fairly minimal. It's pretty level.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I did some calculations, the increase from last year to this year in the levy, if we go to the maximum allowable levy, which is what we would do tonight, without having a fire fee, the increase is $54,631.06, or it's a 2.56% increase. If you own a home of value of $250,000, the increase on your property tax bill would be $11.19. So if you have a $500,000 home, it would be $22.38, if you want to, the increments. So it's only, as Jeannie pointed it out, it's less than a value in the colors.
It's total, it's not like per.
No, it's a flat $11.19 per $250,000 worth of assessed value.
Right. Right, so it does go into the mill rate.
Yes.
That's what it does. But the equalized value gets reassessed every year, right? Or is that not for the town?
The assessed value or the equalized value? They're two separate.
Well, what is for the assessed value on here? That was
The
done last year?
the taxes are based on the assessed value.
Okay. And we just had that, what, a couple of years ago?
2016, we did a full reval. 2024, we did a market reval.
Right, so we just went through that.
And even with that market reval, because the ratios are already in the county system, our values are down now to 87.93%. So everybody's property value, there's a 13% difference.
Already in 1 year.
In 1 year, yeah. So that tells you what property's selling for.
So in order to do this tonight, since we notice a different budget, you would have to state, do you have that up there?
No, I don't.
Okay, so it's on this email.
We need a motion to,
Approve the budget without the fire protection plan.
well, to approve the levy at the maximum allowable levy.
And that takes us to the 1.3.
Not included, we have to put it in there, not including the fire.
The fire fee is totally separate, what we remember. We just need a motion
We're
to.
only approving the levy limit, not the actual budget.
Correct.
I make a motion that we approve the levy limit to the maximum amount allowed.
Second.
Okay, any questions by anybody? Do you understand everything we've talked about?
Is there going to be another vote on an entire budget? Because this is just the levy.
That's all the electors can vote on. The board then votes on the budget. So the accountability with the budget is here, not with you. That's how this is set up. The levy allowing us to tax you at that 2,000,001, that is your authorization of us to allow us to do that.
I guess my discussion, I think you did a good job, Joe, kind of demystifying the budget, how we got to where I got, and then you created some hope that you guys are going to do all these things to try to prevent that from happening in the future. Where can we qualify the motion
I'm thinking not, because it's just a levy. You're approving the maximum allowable levy, which is restricted by the state government and by our debt service that we're paying on loans, which are hard numbers.
How about, can we influence your thinking when you do your voting and your motion on approving the budget, that there's some caveats in there, you know, that we will do all these proactive things that you spoke about, which I think are great, because we gotta do.
We have to.
do it,
We
you
have
know. Instead of just approving the budget, because what's to say?
I think the 4 or 6, how many budget workshops did we have? I was in 3 meetings last week, so this board is definitely all on the same page to work towards this. I can tell you that. I mean, we all are very concerned about what's going on here in our town. So, and come to the meetings, you know, and public comments, you know, you're able to tell us what you think every meeting, you know.
And your voice is heard every April. How do you vote?
Plus,
Representation.
my intent is to try and have 1 or 2 public hearings where we're talking about these same things, putting the same charts up, showing what we're doing and how we're finding, like, as soon as we find out something on healthcare, right, we got a pretty good idea of how that could benefit us. I'd like to start showing that right away, and we can't implement it until next open enrollment. But it's gonna be 27's budget that will impact.
I think to Supervisor Leonard's point is, I think you'll see, on our agendas that we're gonna have, capital expenditure planning meetings, special meetings in order to do that. We're looking at all these extra activities and extra meetings, but, just to get us where we need to be.
Because you even said it, Joe, it was like a fire drill the last, 2.5 months, 3 months.
Oh,
But
better
it
than
should,
that.
it should be a continuous effort, so we don't find ourselves in this.
So I think our deadlines for some of those actions, I don't even know if I put it up there, was to have some answers by April, May timeframe, like on the healthcare and stuff. So the idea is we're starting to have information that can be applied toward the budget. Plus, one of the things that we were unable to budget with the constraints was to get someone, an advisor, to walk us through the budgeting process. The village, I've talked to Eileen a couple times, and the village, in fact, that was the proposal I gave to everybody at the November 17 meeting in the packet. You can see their proposal. They started in April with a meeting, planning and looking at all this stuff, and it's not, you don't come in at the last minute in September or October and try and plug this together. So I don't know how to accomplish what you're asking for. I understand what you're asking. Yeah, absolutely.
Based on the numbers that you have provided, I did some calculations of borrowing as a total percentage of funds availability.
Okay.
And based upon the budget that's already proposed, the reduction is about 20 to 25% of the total balance there. So, I mean, we're already talking about a pretty significant going from 22.6% to 17.9% borrowing versus available revenues. And you're reducing the debt ratio to total expenditures by a third. So, I mean, I think that the process is already being implemented, but it's hard to drill down into the numbers. And one of the things that I feel is important based upon my business, and I know that various people here have businesses, I have business, I can call up at any point in time with 2 clicks on my computer. I can see what my revenue is, what my expenses are, what my capital is. And it's pretty clear from hearing the discussion here that supervisors are not able to do that here, that nobody really in the town is able to do that here. And without being able to do that, it is, to me, remarkable that the presentation that could be presented is because the computer time or the personal effort time to be able to do these things compared to a computer generating it is astronomical. So, for example, I'm a lawyer. 15 years ago, and I really want to express my thanks to you for this, but 15 years ago when I started my firm, was the first time it was possible to have cloud-based technology that would allow me to bill in 15 minutes for my entire firm.
Yep.
And in that 15 minutes, I would see people pay bills because they went out electronically like this.
Yep.
So I had bills paid before I was even done sending them. And to me, one of the challenges, shall I say, for fiscal responsibility in the future, as I see it, is to be able to move away from all the work you have to do.
Absolutely. I did not do this.
To find ways to electronically transfer information that can be available instantly, and that's only possible if there's software that can do it. But that changes and evolves all the time, and it really is that incumbent and important for people who sit on the town board, for people who come to meetings, for people who talk about these things, to be able to understand the importance of information in decision making, because if you don't have it, you don't know why decisions are made. You just know what happens at the end of the day, and that's when you see big numbers like we've been looking at today. So
It's the feedback loop. You don't have reports. You can't.
Not yet.
I mean, isn't that what it was for?
No.
I mean, so that you can have instantaneous input and output?
It's
On some things, but not all.
It's,
yeah.
so what, you know Bob Cratchit and the Christmas Carol? I love Bob Cratchit. Anyway, he's filling out these big books. Effectively, the business system is the big book. So you're putting a lot of data in. They can generate fixed reports, not necessarily readable by the human being. They're kind of accounting reports. And it doesn't do trending by itself. They're making journal entries for things, to keep things in the right pots, and then it puts out the report that shows you what expenses occurred. But there's really no way to do that trending with just the business system. It's got to be an extra package that pulls that data, manipulates it, puts it like the charts. Those are Excel. Excel made those charts from data that was picked up and hand loaded. So, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, when the town purchased the software in 2003, we were frugal, and we bought what we needed at the time. So, things have changed, so.
In Chairman Jones' presentation, actually said that we're gonna get that add-on piece.
Yeah,
allows-
and it's coming, yeah.
Yeah.
But we have a motion and a second on the floor.
Okay, I'm sorry. Any other discussion? All right. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, we're gonna have an approved budget here.
Levy.
Or levy, I'm sorry, yes, the budget's next meeting.
Make a motion, we adjourn. Second. Special meeting, electors.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? All right, so now I have to call the next meeting to order at 7:19. And it's, now we're going to approve the budget.
I'll make a motion to adopt the 2026 sanitary district number 3 budget.
Second.
Any other discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? All right.
I'll make a motion to adopt the 2026 landfill budget.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
So we have a landfill budget. So now we are motioning to, do we have to change how this motion is based upon what we did before at the maximum allowable levy?
No,
Or
you're just voting to adopt the budget.
adopt the budget?
Make a motion to approve and adopt the 2026 Town of East Troy budget.
I'll second.
So any discussion?
Yeah, I still think we could do more with several of the items that we have in the budget that would reduce our spending. I think we're at the cliff, we need to pull back.
And I answered that question, that,
I understand.
so, any other
Well, I
discussion?
agree with Bob, Supervisor Church, I just think that this year, I think we're to a point this year that there's nothing to do. We have to move forward and then move into next year and work and work and work at this. I think.
Any other? Oh, yes, ma'am.
I was just gonna say, as moving through next year, and moving through this budget, any expenditures need to be and will be brought before the board to approve at that time. So just because $50,000 was designated to AV equipment to do what we're doing tonight, doesn't mean that we're going to spend that $50,000 on that AV equipment. It could be something that can say, no, we're gonna hold it, we're gonna push it down the road, or whatever the decision is at that time.
Right, it's
Good
budgeted, right.
Good point.
Thank you.
Any other conversation? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Okay, so now we're going to, no.
Resolution.
Number 6, we don't really need to deal
You
with.
gotta do number 5. Number 5.
Oh, I'm sorry, I missed one.
Do you want me to read the resolution?
Sure.
Okay. Resolution 2025-12, a resolution appropriating and levying the necessary funds for the operation of the government and administration of the town of East Troy for the fiscal year 2026. Whereas Wisconsin statute 60.10 Sub 1, Sub A authorizes the town electors of a town to adopt the town tax levy at a town meeting of the electors, whereas a special town meeting of the town electors has been called and properly noticed to approve the 2025 total town tax levy to be collected in 2026 pursuant to Wisconsin statute 60.10 Sub 1, Sub A. Therefore, the special town meeting of the town of East Troy, Walworth County, Wisconsin, by a majority vote of the eligible electors duly assembled and voting on this 24th day of November 2025, hereby resolves as the borders as follows. The electors of the town of East Troy, Walworth County, Wisconsin, adopt the total town tax levy for 2025 to be collected in 2026 in the amount of $2,185,068, which is changed from the resolution that you have in your packets, because the motion was made to go to the maximum allowable levy. And then 2, the town of East Troy clerk treasurer shall properly post this resolution as required by law under Wisconsin statute 60.80 sub 1 sub A within 30 days of its adoption. The town of East Troy, Walworth County, Wisconsin, adopted this 24th day of November 2025.
Okay, so we're just updating the amount.
Of the levy, correct.
Okay. Motion to approve the resolution.
I make a motion to approve resolution 2025-12, appropriating and levying the necessary funds for the operation of the government and administration of the town of East Troy for the fiscal year 2026.
Second.
Any discussion?
I just have one quick question.
Sure.
I might be lost here a little bit. I thought they were on $2,185,000.
That's what
That's what she read.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
It's
across the
not the same as what's in there, because I move that we go to the maximum allowable.
Okay.
Then
Perfect.
the levy supposed to be 2026 and collected in 27?
No.
It's
25.
5.
collected in 2026.
Collected in 26, yeah.
Well, that's for 2025.
Correct.
But it's a 2026 budget.
Right, because you have to levy the tax that then drives for the 26, so you can't pay, you don't spend money and then get the money. It's government. So we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? All right, so that resolution is passed. Number 6, we are no longer doing a fire protection fee. I think we can just permanently table this. And then we go to 7, which is the credit card contract, which we've had the attorney review. Was there discussions then with them? There were supposed to be discussions to...
That gentleman was supposed to be taking care of that, and I don't know if there was any feedback or not.
Okay, so what are we doing tonight then to accept? So, review and approve the contract to accept credit cards for town payments. Oh, it's just for town payments we're talking about. It's not the contract, we're not signing the contract, right?
Well, Jim Mills reviewed the contract and made comments, forwarded it to Jen. I was told to put it on the agenda for tonight, which is what I did. And
I don't know how we approve it until we know what she...
Yeah.
What she did, right?
Yeah.
But I think
It's
it's
been
been
have to
do it in order to take credit card payments for taxes. I think that's why.
I thought we were going to, what was it, tonight? I thought we were gonna push it to the next meeting.
December meeting?
Yeah.
That's what I thought too.
I make a motion that we table the review and approve MSB contract to accept credit cards for town payments until the December town,
8th.
December 8th town board meeting.
Second.
Okay, any other discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Make a motion we adjourn.
Second.
Any discussion on adjourning? Let's, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you.